Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan and welcome to the 2-year celebration of the Words in Time channel. And for those of you thinking, Jonathan, aren't you Words in Time? Isn't this a bit self-congratulating? Well, I'm here to tell you guys that we are all Words in Time, alright? Yes, I know I put a lot of video into making all of the videos, but without you guys commenting, letting me know all of the books that you've been reading, the things that you've been enjoying, the types of videos you want to see, then we wouldn't be anywhere. So this is to celebrate a bit of my hard work, but also all of you guys for helping create this sci-fi community. Look at this, Nima in the chat early. We accidentally clicked on Casey instead. Sorry, Nima, you didn't get the first comment. The glow up on the thumbnail, let's go. Yes. Hopefully the production values have increased a little bit over time, thumbnails included. Or maybe Casey's talking about me. Maybe he thinks I just look better than I did 2 years ago. Thank you, Nima. Always love the support. Nima always joining the patron pick of the month read along, or at least he always says he's going to join them. I don't know how many of the books he's actually read. I'm going to need to check up on Nima and see whether he's just taking credit for joining the read alongs instead of actually reading all of the books. Nick, another patron member. Good to see you in the chat, Nick. Nick, I'm looking forward to talking to you about Revelation Space. I feel like you'd love one of the books, and I feel like you'd hate one of the books. So I'm looking forward to getting your reactions to Revelation Space. Let's see, Vintage SF, congratulations. Oh, we got questions already. I like you guys. Bring in the energy. Say, Jonathan, you don't need any time to settle in. You're a consummate professional. You'll be ready to take questions off the rip. Who are your top 3 I'll read anything they write SF authors? That's a good question. I would say, I just talked about Alistair Reynolds a little bit. I'm very high on Alistair Reynolds. If you've seen, I talk about House of Suns all the time, but it's not just House of Suns. I've pretty much enjoyed all of the books I've read by him. I would also say, who else? I mean, Christopher Rocchio, obviously the Sun Eater series is probably my favorite ongoing sci-fi series. So I'm definitely looking forward to book 6. I believe that comes out in March or April next year is the plan. So I'll definitely be up to date with Sun Eater and one more. Who else am I thinking of? I mean, there's a lot of authors that I want to read more of, but in terms of new books coming out, I'll go Andy Weir. I mean, The Martian, Project Hail Mary is so good. Although I say I'll read anything they write, and I've intentionally avoided Artemis. But Project Hail Mary, The Martian, the reviews are up here. Artemis, the reviews are down here. I don't know. If someone's read Artemis in the chat, they might be able to convince me to check out Artemis. Jose, thank you for considering my work great. I appreciate it. I will try to maintain or increase that level over the next 2 years. Let's see. All right, Nima claims that he's read all of the patron picks except Horus Rising. You weren't missing out on much, Nima. Anyway, let's see. Ooh, Love from Siberia. It's very cool to see. I mean, that's part of the cool thing about YouTube. You get to meet people from all over. I kind of come from all over myself. Born in England, grew up in Australia, now I live in the US, and I get to talk to people about sci-fi that live in Serbia and Finland and Argentina and all kinds of cool stuff. Let's see. Casey's got a Sun Eater question. Would you say that you're more excited or more afraid for Disquiet Gods? You know, I'd have said up to about but in anticipation of book 4, I would have described that emotion as excited. Since book 4 and book 5, afraid. I'm definitely now at the more afraid end of the spectrum for what Christopher Rocchio is going to do next. Nick giving some love to Artemis. I like it because a lot of people aren't that high on it, so I like to see it getting a little bit of love. Is Andy supporting Artemis as well? I'd say it suffers from difficult second book syndrome. Maybe it's not as spectacular as the other two. Well, that's not too harsh a criticism. Not as spectacular. Somewhat spectacular, I'd say, is still a somewhat positive review. Good to see you, Vinesh, coming in from India. That's awesome. I hope this... I think this time zone worked this time works for a lot of countries' time zones except Australia and New Zealand. So not good for some of my friends and family where it's about 5 a.m. at the moment. But hopefully, I think a lot of countries hopefully are able to join the live stream today. All right, we got a question from Bookspin. Question for you. Are you into Jules Verne at all or any other 19th century authors? So the 19th century sci-fi is a little bit of a gap in my reading resume. I have read a little bit of Jules Verne, but not since I was very young. I definitely need to do a bit of a reread or check out some other things as an adult to see what I think of Jules Verne now. And in terms of other old or sci-fi authors, I've read some H.G. Wells, which I quite liked, and Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, which I absolutely loved. So let me know if there are any other big names from that time period that I need to add to the TBR. Look at this. We need to get like a we need to get like a words in time, make it like a world in time map, and see how many countries we can check off. Let's see. All right, we've got a lot of people. I'm glad people have shown up early, shown up proud for the 2-year celebration. What do you think about comics of Flash Gordon and I think that's Buck Rogers? So I'm not a super familiar in terms of a lot of comic stories, comic book heroes. So I don't know that much about Flash Gordon. Did they make a TV show about Buck Rogers? I feel like I watched this as a child with my grandma. So when I was young, we lived in England, and my mum's mum, my grandma, lived with us. And that was awesome because she was super nice to me and my sister. She'd always give us treats, sweets, candy, and that kind of thing. If we get in trouble or we done something like, uh-oh, mum and dad, when they find about this, they're not going to be happy. I'm going to go run and hide in grandma's room. She's going to have some Werther's Original or some cherries or some other nice snack, and we can watch TV together. And I feel like one of the shows that we watched together was Buck Rogers. I might be confusing it with something else, but it's a happy memory, so just let me enjoy it. Let's see. JPA, another fan from India. That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, I rekindled their love for the genre. So that is part of the reason why I make videos, because I really enjoyed reading. I was looking for reading content on YouTube to find more books, help me get motivated to read. And there's just too many fantasy channels, you guys. I like fantasy. I like watching the fantasy TV and movies, but I like reading sci-fi. I said that there needs to be more sci-fi channels out there to help curate some sci-fi TBR list for people. And that's kind of what I view the channel as. I don't want it to necessarily be a review channel, a critics channel. It's more just like curating content. It's more like, here are some things that I found that I've enjoyed, and maybe based on my description, or if you guys know my taste, you might enjoy it as well, or not enjoy it, because a book's an investment. I mean, I don't want you guys to spend 6, 8, 10 hours reading a book that you're not going to enjoy. So hopefully I save you a few bucks, save you a few hours by pointing you guys in the right direction. Big facts. Let me see. Edgar Rice Burroughs. So I haven't read Edgar Rice Burroughs. I'm going to say the name wrong because we're in a live setting and you just got to think on the spot. It's like Princess of Mars or something, right? That's probably one that I need to check out. I know it's pretty influential, pretty famous, but I haven't read any Burroughs yet. So there you go. Buck Rogers was on TV and it was a movie. So that's what I'm going to... That's what I associate with my grandma. Watching TV, eating Werther's Original. What were some other shows she liked? She was a really big fan of Robin Williams. I think it was like Mork and Mindy. That was another one that my grandma liked. That's kind of sci-fi too. There you go. Grandma, good taste. I've got the sci-fi genes, you know. She passed them down the generations to me. Did you read China Miéville? I have only read one book. I read the Hugo Award-winning The City and the City, and I was mixed on it. There were aspects that I liked. It had a bit of a detective story. It had some sort of fantastical elements, kind of sci-fi as well. But I felt like it was a little bit more artful and literary than it was something that really hooked me in terms of the plot and something that I really emotionally connected with. I think it's going to be something that a lot of people will enjoy, but as someone that really likes those sci-fi concepts, really likes stories full of like interesting sort of twists and turns and exciting beats, that's not really what Mieville was trying to deliver. And I'd give him another go though, because people speak highly of him, maybe Perdido Street Station or The Scar or something, but I don't know. I feel like the further we work down his bibliography, the less sci-fi it's going to get. We're really sort of stretching the term, but I'm not too strict. We're going to throw a pretty wide net as to what is considered sci-fi here on the channel. I've been reading some Dark Tower books this year, so I'm not going to be too judgmental on the genre stuff. Alrighty. Let's see. Yes. So I have not tracked this. I really should. It would be interesting to see how fast I read and how much that varies from author to author. In my mind, if something's like relatively easy to read or fast paced, I think I read about a page a minute. And if it's something that's a bit more dense, then I might read closer to like 40, say a page a minute? Yes. So about 60 pages an hour, and then for something that's a bit more dense, 40 to 45 pages an hour, I would guess. So, you know, a 400-page book, of what, 480-page book would be 8 hours, roughly. So, yeah, Peter Hamilton, closer to 20. Those 1,000-page doorstoppers, I'm pretty sure that... So Peter Hamilton gets compared to Alistair Reynolds a lot, and I think it's somewhat fair. I think they do have some similarities in terms of writing style. The Commonwealth duology and Revelation Space, the original Inhibitor trilogy, plus Chasm City, I would wager are probably pretty similar in length, because those are 4 books around 500-ish pages each, and Peter Hamilton's duology, Commonwealth Saga, they're about 1,000 pages each. So, yes. I like to say that I read about a book a week, not a Hamilton book a week. That's not on the schedule. Nick's lying to me here. I think this is a ruse, a simple lampoon, if you will. I do really want to read it though. I do want to read more Stephen King after the Dark Tower. That's probably at the top of my list, and then The Stand would probably be number 2. Yeah, we're going to need to set aside a couple weeks for it, though. King reads pretty quickly, but it's still going to take me a while to get through them. Do we have another? Oh, here we go. Yeah, I think I read these out of order. But yes, I will be checking out 11/22/63, and there you go. It's confirmation it's a doorstopper. I would believe this. I would believe that it reads faster than Hamilton. Although I don't think Hamilton is... I know, I would describe his books as mediumly dense. There's a lot of descriptions. There's a lot of enzyme bonded concrete. He really likes to flesh out the world, but it's not actually that complicated, I would say. Let's see, how fast does KC reads? 2 to 4 minutes per page. You got to pick that up, my friend. I say that, and I bet Casey still reads more books than I do. But that's okay. I might be way off, guys. I might be overestimating my my reading ability. I'm pretty sure I'm in the ballpark of that. But is that a video? Jonathan times himself reading. That's a future video. We'll see. Maybe I'll invite some other booktubers on, and we'll time ourselves reading. We'll call it the BookTube Olympics. But there's no real sort of strength or athletic feats being tested. Just pages per minute. Thumbs up in the chat if you want to see that video in the future. Let's see. No, Frank. What kind of question is this? Why would I read anything other than science fiction? The greatest genre known to man. So I'm somewhat serious when I say this. I'm 25% joking. So I do enjoy other genres. In the past, I have read other genres, and I regret to admit this, enjoyed them. But I am pretty focused on sci-fi for now for a couple of reasons. One, it's just my favorite thing to read. I really like sci-fi. 2, there's still a lot more sci-fi to read. I read a decent amount of books, but there's hundreds, if not thousands, of sci-fi books that I still want to get to. So I have not reached the bottom of the sci-fi barrel. I am not running out of things to read. And thirdly, I want to focus on sci-fi for the channel. I think if I started doing fantasy or horror or crime or something else for the channel, I'm not sure. I just want to focus on a niche. I think sci-fi. That's what the people want. My people, you people. I found you guys, and this is what we're going to focus on. But I do like it, all genres. I like, especially when it comes to film and TV. I vary a lot more in what I watch. Westerns. Westerns are kind of an underrated genre. I do love a good western. That would be pretty high on my film genre list. Let's see. Bookspin is a fan of Murakami's 1Q84. I do need to read some Murakami. I'm not sure if I'll start with that one because it's so big. Someone recommended to me, I made a video on detective sci-fi books. I'm forgetting the name now, but it's something like Alice in Hard-Boiled Wonderland, something like that. And that sounded pretty good, and it sounded like it might be a good introduction to Murakami if I've got that right. So let me know in the chat if anybody's read that one. That could be a good place to start. Let's see. There you go. Sounds like you've got to start reading more YA. Get those are rookie numbers. You got to get those numbers up. Let's see. Vignesh says, what are your current reads? So I'm currently reading Altered Carbon by Richard K. Morgan, and I'm fairly early into it, but I'm really enjoying it so far. It has a very distinct tone. I'm really getting a good feel for the world. There's already been some kind of interesting technology introduced. So yeah, I'm down for sort of a cyberpunk noir detective story. I'm on board. Let's see. What do you think about Words by Alan Moore? So I don't know if Words is a publication of his or just am I a fan of the words that he writes. By Alan Moore, I have read Watchmen and I've read V for Vendetta. And I think they are both phenomenal. Sometimes I like to think about if the world was ending. If the world was ending and it's like, you know what, guys, we're not going to stop the meteor. There's nothing to do except create a time capsule. And inside the time capsule, put in the greatest achievements of the history of humankind. It's too late to save humans, but maybe an alien species hundreds or thousands of years into the future will wander through our galaxy, find our time capsule, open it up, and this will be our legacy. This is what humans accomplished while we existed. I feel like you got to throw Watchmen or V for Vendetta in there. They're that good. I think very, very highly of those. And we'll throw in a couple of other mediums. Uncharted 4, the video game. You might need to include a monitor, a PS4, a couple HDMI cables, a power source, a controller. You're going to take up a lot of the time capsule, putting Uncharted 4 in the time capsule, but I think it's worth it right next to some Alan Moore comics. I wanted to like this movie so much. I was like, I love sci-fi, I love westerns, cowboys versus aliens, and it was borderline unwatchable. I'm sorry if you're a fan. Like, it had some moments, but this just did. I was too hyped. My expectations were too high for this movie, and it just did not live up to them, I'm afraid. Let's see. We've got some pushback on 1Q84. I'm intrigued. I might read it eventually, but it probably won't be where I start with Murakami. Let's see. Detective Sci-Fi Asimov. So I read I, Robot, and I do plan to continue the Robot series. People have told me that Caves of Steel and the subsequent Robot books have some good detective sci-fi in them. So that'll be on the TBR probably 2024, I think. Let's see. Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. See, I was kind of close with the title. It's a pretty good place to start with Murakami. All right, that's good. Let's... what have I done? So, the background for this was that someone on Discord said that in Blake Crouch's Twitter profile, it said that he described himself as the breaker of reading slumps. And I actually think that's a fair description. I think his books are great for breaking reading slumps. Dark Matter, Recursion, they're both awesome books, fast paced, easy to read, get you out of a reading slump. But you can't give yourself your own nickname. I said that would be like calling myself the Sultan of Sci-Fi, and I regret making that joke on Discord now. Yes, I like it. Nick's Nick's showing some love for Watchmen. It's elite. I think the movie's slightly underrated. I'm not saying it's the best, but people hated on that movie. I didn't hate it. I thought it was actually did not that bad a job, especially when it's so hard to live up to the original source material. I thought it was all right. Frank asks, what's your favorite sci-fi film if you have one? That's a good question. I think at some point I might do a video on my top 10 sci-fi films, because if I do sort of branch out from sci-fi books, it's not going to be into other genres. It's going to be staying within the realm of sci-fi, but maybe some other mediums. I might just start talking about sci-fi film and TV if you guys are interested. But for now, I'll just pick one. Ooh. It's hard. You know, I'm not going to say this is definitively my number one, but it's definitely in my top 10. The first one that came to mind is Blade Runner 2049. I'm Team 2049. I like Blade Runner, but I think the second film, it was basically made for me. Ryan Gosling is my favorite actor. Denis Villeneuve, probably my favorite current director, maybe favorite director ever. Everybody loves Hans Zimmer on the music. Roger Deakins, my favorite cinematographer, did The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, one of my other favorite films of all time. And pretty much any great film that has any great cinematography, there's like a 50% chance if you go to IMDb, you'll be like, oh, that film, the DP was Roger Deakins. So Blade Runner 2049, absolute banger. Let's see. All right, so I feel like my hottest video game take is that The Last of Us is a 9 out of 10. I tell people that and they get so mad. Last of Us fans are crazy. They're like the Dune fans of video games. Like anything less than a 10 out of 10 is absolute blasphemy. I thought that game was awesome. I thought it looked great. The story was great. For me, the gameplay it wasn't quite as fun as Uncharted. I thought that the equivalent, because the word, I'm forgetting the word that I'm looking for, but like the mechanics, the engine is pretty much the same. And in Uncharted, when you solve puzzles, it's like, I've got to hop across from this to this. There's this giant ancient statue and I got to move its limbs around, and then something falls out and swings down, and you feel like you're playing Indiana Jones. It's awesome. Whereas like the puzzles in The Last of Us are like, move this box, climb on the box, move this ladder, climb up the ladder. It's very repetitive. And that's really my only qualm with The Last of Us. Everything else about the game is absolutely awesome, but people get angry when I give it a 9. They don't like that 9. Let's see. Well, yes, Team 2049. Let's grow the team. Come over to my side, guys. I'm not hating on Blade Runner. I'm just all about being showing some love to Blade Runner 2049. Let's see. Did you read Frederick Brown? He is grande sci-fi writer. I like that description. If I was a sci-fi writer, I would be very pleased if someone referred to me as grande sci-fi writer. I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with Frederick Brown. I'm feeling a little bit silly right now. So if anybody has a Brown recommendation, throw it in the chat. I'll have to look it up and maybe add it to the TBR. I haven't read anything by him yet. Okay, Bamsis. Shout out Bamsis. He asks, what is the next trilogy/series are you going to read? So that is a good question. I just wrapped up Revelation Space. I'm currently reading The Dark Tower. I am currently also reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'll be reading the second book, The Restaurant at the End of the Universe, this month. And the next series that I'm going to start, though, I believe will be Otherland. Otherland by Tad Williams. Haven't read any Tad Williams before. I know he has some fans in the fantasy community because of what's it's called? to Green Angel Tower, I think, is one of the books in the series. I'm forgetting the name of it, but apparently a big influence on George R. R. Martin and other fantasy favorites. But Otherland, it's sort of a VR, virtual reality, cyberpunk type story, and there's 4 books in the series. So I think I'm going to be starting that one next month. So yeah, let me know if there's any Otherland fans out there or anybody else that is interested in reading some Tad Williams. Let's see, Tussie asked, have I watched Solaris or Stalker, the roadside picnic film adaptation? So I have read both Solaris and Stalker, really enjoyed both of them, especially Solaris, but I haven't watched either of the films yet. But now that I have read the books, because I only read them in the last year, I am keen to check out those films. Ooh, geez. You put me in a tough spot here, Frank. Frank asked if I was stranded on a desert island with only one sci-fi book, what would it be? So if you saw my top 25 favorite sci-fi books of all time video, you'd know that I'm pretty high on House of Suns by Alistair Reynolds. And it's pretty complex. I think it would be pretty enjoyable to read and then reread. It's not super long though. Do I want to go just like a massive chunker? Do I want to pick like a 1,200 page book? Is there going to be more replay value in that depending on how long I'm going to be stranded on the desert island? I'm trying to think what's the best big book that I've read. Yeah, let me know your favorite chunkers in the chat. Off the top of my head, I mean, some of the Sun Eater books are pretty good and pretty big. I don't know, but I want something over 1,000. I might have to pick up a Stephen King book. Imagine picking a book you haven't even read before to take a desert island. What a risk that would be. Jonathan, you absolute maverick. Let's see. Oh, geez. I think, let's see. Are people on board with my video game takes? Let's find out. Casey says, all right, he gets it. Why Last of Us might not be do it for everybody. 9 out of 10 is acceptable. Okay, a reasonable response. I'm glad that a 9 out of 10 does not make me a hater. Nick's not really on board though. He thinks the puzzles are boring. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say they're the highlight of Uncharted, but I don't know if I wouldn't agree they're boring. I thought they were fun. Let's see. Pooja asks, what is my favorite Neil Stevenson book? So I've only read one, and it was Snow Crash, and I did really enjoy it. I gave that an 8 out of 10. So I'll definitely be reading more Stevenson. He's got some chunky books. Maybe Stevenson would be a good choice to take on a desert island. What am I interested in reading? Seven Eves, Anathem, Diamond Age. Yeah, those are some of the ones that I want to check out next. I might be forgetting something, but yeah. Let me know what you think would be the next Stevenson book that I should pick up after reading Snow Crash. Let's see. I clicked on this thinking it was about Succession, the TV show. I was wrong. Let's see. Jose asked, have I read Succession by Scott Westerfeld? He writes mostly YA now, but Succession was a great space opera dealing with AI, nanotechnology, and great space battles. So I haven't read it. I'm not familiar with Scott Westerfeld, but that's a pretty good pitch. I do like some of those concepts. I do like space opera. So that sounds like a pretty fun book. How many in this series though? Because, and this particularly seems to happen with space opera, people will recommend me a series. They'll go, Jonathan, you like space opera. You like Christopher Rocchio. You like Alistair Reynolds. I've got a space opera recommendation for you. And then there's like 17 books in the series, and it's like, guys, that's gonna take up like 4 months worth of YouTube videos, just catching up on this space opera series, which hopefully is good, but who knows? So, Jose, let me know how many books are in this Succession series. Oh, he already provided. See, Jose's a step ahead. He goes, I know, Jonathan. I'm going to make him this recommendation, and then he's going to go, but Jose, is there 17 books in it? No. Two novels. The Risen Empire and The Killing of Worlds. So I like that for 2 reasons. 2 books. Those are good titles. I like those titles. The Risen Empire and The Killing of Worlds. Sounds pretty epic. Large scope space opera. That's what we like to see. All right, we got a comment from Renko. Recent subscriber, literally a few days ago. Well, good timing. I'm glad you joined in time to join the live stream. Is there a book you've read that you thought you'd hate but actually loved? I.e., wrongly judging a book by its cover. I like this question. This is a good question. I'm a little picky with my reading. My time is, everybody's short on time. It's the nature of being human, man. So I usually like to do a little bit of research on books before I read them. Either I'm familiar with the author, or it's has good reviews, or it's an award winner, or people that know my tastes have recommended it to me. So I'm not sure there's anything that I would read that I would expect to hate, other than maybe a patron pick. If one of you patrons goes rogue and recommends something that is kind of out of my wheelhouse. Although that's kind of the point of the patron pick. You guys recommend me stuff that might not already be on my radar. Some of the patron picks I've ended up loving, being all-time favorites. And a couple of them, I would say Horus Rising by the Warhammer 40k book is something that I didn't expect to love, just because I'm not familiar with Warhammer. I didn't know anything about it. It was kind of totally outside of the realm of what I typically read, and that was one. It was okay. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't one that I ended up loving. So that's not really a good answer to your question. I'm not sure if I can think of a good answer off the top of my head. I mean, The Snow Queen was pretty good. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I liked it, and that was one because it's sort of a fantasy / sci-fi retelling of a classic story. I thought maybe this might not work for me, but it was a Hugo winner, so I gave it a try, and I liked it. I wouldn't go so far as to say I love it, but in a live setting, that's the best I can think of to answer your question, Rinko. Let's see. Baker, hello, I love your videos. I've gotten so many good book recommendations. That is great to hear. I'm glad that this was not an opportunity for you to air your grievances. You spent a lot of time and money reading books that I recommended and you hated them. So mission success. Glad to have you as part of the channel. Let's see. Okay, Book of the New Sun. I think that would probably be a potential answer for a lot of people, because that's sort of a polarizing book. A lot of people, Book of the New Sun, it ends up being their favorite thing of all time, and other people are just like, I just don't get it. So you might go into that reading experience thinking, I don't know if this is going to be for me, but then you end up being one of the Book of the New Sun nuts that you will find out and about. Oh, Cryptonomicon. That's another Stevenson book that I should maybe add to my list. Let's see. Did I read Japanese sci-fi writer Kabo Abe? I am not familiar. I haven't read any of their works. I do actually have a couple of specific Japanese sci-fi authors that I want to get to, but that is not one that I've heard of. So let me know if there's a particular book of theirs you would recommend that I start with. Bamster says, consider Fleabas, probably in response to a book that you thought you would hate but ended up loving. That's another polarizing one. The Ian M. Banks Culture series is pretty popular. A lot of people say, Jonathan, when are you going to get to more Culture series? I've read 2 books so far, The Player of Games and Use of Weapons. I really, really liked The Player of Games, and I quite liked Use of Weapons. I'll be reading Consider Fleabas in October. And that is the first book in the series, and that tends to be one that people are pretty divided on. And then usually after book 1, The Culture, I hear mostly positive reactions too. So yeah, that could be one where I'm going into it being like, oh, I'm not expecting this to be my favorite. But maybe like Bamsis, it'll end up being one of my favorite Culture books. All right, we're getting the inside scoop here on Frederick Brown, master of short stories in science fiction and mystery fiction. Haven't read any of his novels yet, but I've heard good things about Martian Go Home, a classic 50s alien invasion tale. Okay, so that sounds pretty cool. I'm actually not super well versed in short stories. For whatever reason, my brain is just drawn more towards novels than it is to short stories. At some point, I'm going to need to sort of correct that. I'm sure there are some great short story collections that I am missing out on. So a couple of sci-fi authors that are maybe more known for their short stories than their novels have perhaps flown under my own personal radar. But yeah, feel free to let me know about them. Maybe Frederick Brown is someone that I need to put at the top of that list. Always Frank. Everybody should be reading more Reynolds. Let's see. Oh, here's a good question from Baker. Have you ever liked a movie adaptation more than the book? Ooh. Well, it's not a direct adaptation, but I like Blade Runner 2049 more than Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Even though I really like Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I actually think Philip K. Dick books really lend themselves to adaptations because I wouldn't say it's better, but I'd say it's on a pretty similar level. A Scanner Darkly. I love the book and I love the film. I thought it nailed the tone, the sense of humor, the atmosphere, the paranoia, and the visual art style is just awesome. So yeah, everybody should go watch A Scanner Darkly if they haven't seen it. Cryptonomicon, not that long. I will be checking. I'm not ordering before checking the page count. Crafty Nick is not to be trusted when it comes to page lengths. Ooh. Here's a good question. Philosophical science fiction versus warrior science fiction. So if you had pitched this to me as, Jonathan, do you like slow, meandering, thoughtful, philosophical science fiction versus fast-paced, action-packed, adrenaline, momentum, concept-driven sci-fi, I'd have been pretty up in the air because I do appreciate both ends of that particular spectrum. But philosophical versus warrior, specifically warrior in terms of fights and battles and things, that can be interesting, especially if it is surrounded by interesting concepts or characters. But that's not often a source of finding my favorite books. So specifically out of these two things, I'm going to lean towards the philosophical. Off the top of my head, something like a Solaris, something like that is a type of sci-fi that I've been really enjoying recently. Let's see. Bam says, this might be in response to one that you expected to hate but ended up loving. Ready Player One. It's fun. It's not an all-time favorite for me, but it does get it. People like to dunk on it, I think, just because it was so wildly successful, and then people read it, and it's not. It doesn't achieve something great like a Dune or a Hyperion. But I think it's still fun. I think it's fun, fast. There's some nostalgia there. If you just go into it reading it as popcorn sci-fi, I think you'll have a good time. Let's see. Got some Stevenson Rex here. Diamond Age is great. On the other hand, Cryptonomicon is like 800. I told you, Nick. Nick's not going to catch me out. Frank. So I salute you, Frank, for doing the good work, doing my research for me. 800 pages long. I mean, 800 pages isn't that bad. It might be great. I mean, Stevenson's a good writer. I'm sure if I get to it, I'll end up loving it. But when you have a specific TBR, when you have timelines that you're trying to hit before the end of the year or to make a specific video or something, those 800 page books, they are rather daunting. Let's see. Casey says, yeah, he has a fear of the Book of the New Sun for some reason. He knows many people who adore that thing, but he doesn't want to read it for a good long while. Well, I just read the first book, and I will say that The Shadow of the Torturer doesn't really feel like a complete book. It does feel like, rather than book one of a 4-book series, it feels like part one of just a whole book. So I'm not going to judge it because I've only read the first part. It didn't really click for me, but so many people love it. I feel like the risk-reward ratio is there, right? Like if someone comes to you, a group of people come to you, and they all say, the majority of them say, yeah, it was pretty good, we'll think you like it. And then one person was like, it didn't really work for me. You're like, okay. It's not very risky, but it sounds like the reward is not super high. Then a group of people come to you, because, you know, this is how life works, right? Just groups of people approach you in unison with book recommendations. All right, group number 2 comes up, and they say, all right, we've got a book. Half of us absolutely loved it. Half of us absolutely hated it. Of the two groups, I'm more interested in that second recommendation because even though it is more likely that I don't have a good time, the reward is higher. The potential reward of that book is high. So even though I'm in that group too, and I'm saying for me, Shadow of the Torturer, it didn't work, I still recommend that you guys read it because I know that the potential reward for the people that end up liking that book really, really like that book. So, Casey, give it a try. Let's see. Oh, we got another flag in the virtual World in Time map that we're building throughout the live stream island. Plant the flag. Good to have you here, Patrick. Let's see. Oh, Bamps is excited for the Culture series. Yes, if you've never read the Culture series, you want to reread the Culture series, join me. October, consider Fleabass, and we'll see. I'm committing to reading at least 2 more. So I've read 2. I'm committing myself to reading Consider Fleabass in Accession, and then after that, we'll see. If I'm enjoying it, I'll probably end up reading all 10 Culture books. If those 2 don't hit, then we'll put a bit of a pause on the series. Let's see. It is raining a little bit. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain. It's a little ominous. We're setting the mood, some atmosphere for you guys. It's a little gothic. I just read Revelation Space, and we're kind of getting that mood today. But you guys are bringing some good energy, so I'm not too creeped out or worried about the rain. Let's see, Frank, do you have a favorite sci-fi hero or heroine? That is a good question. The first person that comes to mind is Hadrian from the Sun Eater series. I think any book that is written in the first person, you either have to like that character or at least be interested and invested in that character. And that's a series that is written in the first person that I think works really, really well for a number of reasons. One of those reasons being how much I enjoy reading the character of Hadrian. In terms of a heroine, I really liked Mahit from the Teixcalan duology by Arkady Martin. She's a fish out of water character, and I really enjoyed sort of that experience of her trying to adapt to a new culture while having to play political games at the same time, navigating new relationships, and some cool tech and world building in that series as well. But I think the characters and the character of Mahit in particular is one of the things that entertained me during that duology. Oh, Dale, with the age-old question. Ooh, we kind of lagged there for a bit, but that's okay. It seems like we're back. Dale, with the classic question, do you tend to like the more modern books or classic books? So when I put together my top 25 of all time list, you can double check this if I am wrong, I separated them into modern and classic, and around sort of like 1980s or so, it gets a little bit squirrely. But obviously, to me, anything 90s earlier, 70s later, modern and classic, I think it was 13 and 12. I think I had 13 modern, 12 classic, or it might have been the other way around. I could double check that. So it's a pretty split 50-50, Dale. I do try to read a fairly even amount of modern and classic and hard and soft sci-fi. So I don't know if I have a particular preference. I like the ideas-driven nature of a lot of classic books, and I like some of the character work and some of the pacing of the modern novels. So I don't think you can really go wrong either way. Yeah, let me know. Let me know if in the chat if the chat leans one way or the other. Let's see. All right, another fan of the Blade Runner movies in Baker. Check out A Scanner Darkly. That's a good choice. Yeah, do it this weekend. I don't know if it's raining where you guys are, but you're in the mood for a trippy, moody movie. Put on A Scanner Darkly. Joanna, thank you for the happy 2 years. I recently was lucky enough to go on Joanna's channel alongside Michael from Fit to Be Read to talk about sci-fi. So that was a really fun live stream chat. Go check that out if you didn't happen to catch it, and just any of other Joanna's videos. She reads a bit of sci-fi, a bit more fantasy than I do, but what am I trying to get Joanna to read? Hyperion? I think she owns Hyperion, but hasn't read it yet. So, chat, get on that. Okay, we need throw some Hyperions up in the chat to convince Joanna to read it. Let's see. Casper says The Name of the Rose was a better movie than novel. I haven't seen the book or read the novel, so I'll take your word for it. Let's see. Baker with another good question. What is the biggest childhood nostalgia sci-fi book or movie for you, or what got you into sci-fi? So I actually made a video a while ago on the 5 books that got me into science fiction. I sort of tracked... Wait, is that going backwards in time? Trippy, man, so sci-fi. I messed with the structure and told the story in reverse order, man. I told the story of how I got into science fiction from a kid to a teenager to an adult. And the first book that I remember reading that's kind of sci-fi / portal fantasy is called The Transl Saga by Gary Paulson, who is a somewhat well-known YA author for his book The Hatchet. You might have read that, or if you have kids, they might have read The Hatchet. And he also read this kind of time travel adventure story called The Transl Saga, which I read when I was, I think, around 10. And that was sort of my first entry into that kind of reading experience, and I just absolutely loved it. I think it was the first book that I reread. So that was sort of a bit of a, yeah, that was a moment in words in time history, you can say. Let's see. Tussie asks, what Japanese authors are on my TBR? So I want to read Murakami, and I want to read, I think it's Ishiguro, who wrote Clara and the Sun and something else. So those are a couple. Yeah, let me know if you have any other Japanese sci-fi authors that I should add to the TBR. Ooh, this is, what do we got here? Frank says, what do you think about the recent stories that US has recovered crashed UFOs and alien body parts? I don't know what level of security clearance might be tuning into the live stream. I don't know what kind of answers to give here. I don't know. I actually don't really have any strong opinions on that. In a broader sense, I'm not saying that it specifically crashed on on Earth and that we have the evidence of, or I think aliens are real. I don't know if humans have ever interacted with them. I don't know if they've ever been to our galaxy, but just the sheer number of stars and galaxies and possibly universes, the chance that life would develop somewhere, no matter how many billions of light years away, I think it has happened. Would I like to interact with aliens? Would I like there to be proof of aliens? Well, I used to think so. If you'd have asked me a couple years ago, I'd be like, yes, that would be awesome. What a moment for mankind to interact with another species. What a way to experience life, existence through the eyes of another sentient being from another planet. What that would mean for humanity. What would that mean for me as an individual? But then I read the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy and I was like, nope, cut out all communication. Any messages we're sending out into space, you stop that right now. No good can come from this. I'm out. I'm out on the aliens, you guys. So there you go. That's my answer to that. Okay, Mondo Strat asks, what did I think of Samuel R. Delaney's Nova? Oh, you guys, I read this a little while ago now, and I still have no idea what to make of it. I'm not sure what I read. I could imagine people reading this and finding something truly special in it, because it is quite unlike pretty much any other sci-fi book that I've read. But a lot of the time, I was like, what is the story? What is this about? Who are any of you? What are you doing? Why are you doing any of it? We're just taking random detours to talk about tarot cards for a couple of chapters. Like, I might need to reread this, guys. Delaney is a trip. Delaney is a unique writer. I'll be honest, I did not personally connect with Nova, but I will be trying Delaney again just because I think he's something special. Yes. Yeah, Nick says that every day on the streets he gets approached by people with book recommendations. Completely normal. I agree. That is how book recommendations tend to work. Uh, you will be on your way to the train station and you will have two groups of people come up to you with two separate book recommendations, and you will have to pick which of those two groups of stranger has recommended you the better book. At least that's just how things go down in Los Angeles. Ooh, Dale has an interesting question. Did you expect your channel to be this big by year 2? Congratulations. Thank you, Dale. Your channel helped bring me into science fiction with a Hyperion video. So that's awesome. I'm a big fan of the Hyperion Cantos. I like book 1, but I'm a big fan of the whole series. I think Hyperion gets all the credit. Books 2, 3, and 4, a little bit underrated by the sci-fi community. So I'm glad you got into sci-fi through Hyperion. So did I expect my channel to be this big? No. And I have proof of this. You go, oh, Jonathan, you're just being modest. You knew exactly what was going to happen to your channel. Also, I like the implication that it's big. Or I guess this big doesn't mean it's big. Big just could be talking about size, and you're like, it's pretty small. But did you expect it to be that small by year 2? Anyway, for my 1-year anniversary, I made a video. And I don't talk a lot about stats and stuff on the channel. I think it's a bit inside baseball. I'm not sure how interested you guys are in that. But for the 1-year anniversary, I said, all right, here's where I'm at. At the end of 1 year, I had 1.6 thousand subscribers, and I had about 70,000 views. I was like, let's just throw out some goals for year 2. And my goals for year 2 were 5,000 subscribers and 200,000 views. We are currently over 8,000 subscribers and about 600,000 views. So we absolutely smashed those expectations, which is absolutely awesome. I'm not too concerned about hitting any particular targets because I kind of just do this for fun. I do this on top of a regular job, of course. And I really just, the thing that I enjoy most is things like this, just getting to interact with people, talking to you guys about sci-fi books. But it is obviously nice if a video does well. This year, my most successful video was the 25 essential sci-fi books. How many of you read? Because I kind of turned that into a game, and I think you guys like that kind of scoring system, so you could watch along, count how many points you'd gotten for reading those books. So it is nice when a video does well, and yeah, you guys sort of smashed my expectations with your support this year. So I really appreciate it. I think the number of people in the chat might have picked up. I think I'm lagging behind on the comments. So, Jonathan, stop talking about yourself and start answering our questions. Let's see. Ooh, this sounds like an interesting one. Do I have fictional characters from science fiction or neither who are ideal for simulation? This may not be what you meant, but I'm going to interpret this question as if a character from a sci-fi book that I've read could be created in real life, we make a simulation of them, who would I want it to be? That's a good question. I almost said someone, but then I felt like my reason for that would be a bit of a spoiler. I was gonna say a character that I liked and they were very loyal, but I don't want to spoil how loyal that character is by implying they're loyal. So let's see. I gotta pick someone that I like immediately at the start of a book or from book 1 in a series. Who do I think is interesting? I know some of the Hitchhiker's Guide characters are pretty funny. Because like a lot of sci-fi, the stakes are big and you got very serious characters because they're dealing with a serious situation. Or they're kind of scary, they're exciting, like things could go bad, worlds could get eaten, aliens could overtake the planet. In which case, I don't want anything to do with those characters. Those guys are way too dangerous. Like, you know, just working like a 9-to-6 job is stressful enough, all right? I don't need that kind of stress in my life. I want to find a cool character, a funny character, an entertaining character. So, I don't know, someone from a Kurt Vonnegut or Douglas Adams book I think would be pretty chill and like low stakes. Like, it's not going to have a noticeably stressful impact on my life. All right. Let's see. Philip says, hey, man, I just want to say thank you for getting me into Hyperion. Let's go, Team Hyperion. I finished Fall of Hyperion last week and loved it as well. Let's go, Team Fall of Hyperion. I'm always doing my best to promote the value of the Fall of Hyperion, an underrated classic that you need to read. They're two parts of the same story arc. Why do people just stop after Hyperion? The Fall of Hyperion. Yeah, the structure's different. Yeah, it takes a while to get going. But just push on through and you will be rewarded, my friends. Let's see. Ooh, okay, so my ideal fictional characters that you would like to see simulated are Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, Duke Leto Atreides from Dune by Frank Herbert, and Horace Bianchon from Human Comedy by Honor de Balzac. Okay, so I'm not familiar with the last one. I'll have to look that one up. But the first two, interesting characters, good characters, well-written characters. I don't know if they'd make my life less stressful though. They those two characters, they kind of deal with a lot. I don't want them that kind of bring in that level of stakes. So I'm just trying to get through the day. Just trying to read some books and make some YouTube videos, man. I don't want to be involved in a fight for spices on the planet of Arrakis. That would really mess up my TBR. All right, I don't have time to read 800 books, let alone get myself into a war over resources with noble houses. No, thank you. Let's see. Joanna says she'll be getting to Hyperion, so do it. Yeah, the chat has spoken. Let's see. TP says, I love space operas as well. They're a good genre. Banks is one of my all-time favorite authors. At the moment, I'm reading Surface Detail. Nice. Virtual Hell is brilliant. And Vinci, Deepness in the Sky, surely belong in my top 5 of all time. So I'm looking forward to reading more Banks. Also looking forward to reading more Vinci. I have read A Fire Upon the Deep, and I know that some people like A Deepness in the Sky even more, which is pretty high praise because A Fire Upon the Deep is already pretty highly rated. So maybe next year, A Deepness in the Sky. I need to put it on the schedule. Oh, I don't know the answer to this, but it's a great question. Hans Olo says, do you think aliens are experiencing time in the same direction? So there's Kurt Vonnegut, one of my favorite writers, in his book Slaughterhouse-5. The main character, a soldier Billy Pilgrim, comes unstuck in time, and he interacts with aliens that, for them, time is not linear. So for him, because he's a soldier, he's experienced a lot of death, and because he's a human, and this is natural for humans that experience time in a linear fashion, for him, death has a big impact. It's very sad, and these aliens will see a being that is dead, and they think, well, he's dead in this moment in time, but not in all these other moments in time. And when I read that, it blew my mind. So the ideas that aliens are experiencing time in this, you know what? Maybe humans only think we are experiencing time in a forward-moving linear fashion. That is something we're being tricked into thinking, but perhaps that is not the way time works, even for humans, let alone other aliens. So if we have any astrophysicists in the chat, let me know your theories. Let's see. Ooh, Frank, I did a video on this. I did in regard to the remembrance of Earth's past. It's a bit of a spoiler for book 2, so I won't explain it, but the Dark Forest theory is, I don't know if I believe in it, but I think it's a very interesting theory to read about, and is certainly possible. All right. Momgill, if I somehow manage to be in a first contact scenario, geez, there's like, whatever it is we're up to now, 7 billion people on the planet. And it's like, Jonathan, you're the guy. You're going to be, you're the first person to interact with humans. Don't screw it up. And you're like, all right, that's definitely more pressure than getting the coffee order for the boss. Just being the human representative to an alien species. All right, don't worry. I'm good. I'm good in a live scenario. I've practiced with live streams. Let's go. Let's go chat with these aliens. Aliens, drop a question in the chat, and I'll respond. Anyway, I got sidetracked. If I somehow manage to be in a first contact scenario, the first thing I'm telling them is to avoid humankind. They will regret visiting. Oh goodness. It took a turn. You know what? I like to think of myself as an optimist. I like to think that there is good in people, good in humanity, that there is a future for us. But you know what? We are going to have to overcome some things along the way, Mormon Gill, and we might have to convince the aliens of that we are capable of doing so. So maybe sounds like you're not the best person to send. I'll do my best. I'll try. Let's see. Caspar says, whenever one of my cats enters the room, I get a sense of what an alien encounter would be like, a mixed bag. They are, yeah, aliens, animals. They are very little aliens. Who knows? Who knows where cats came from? Not this galaxy, probably. Yes, I do love it. I've always liked animals, but yeah, getting our dog Charlie has made me an even bigger animal person. So, if animals are aliens, we gotta treat them better, man. They deserve it. They're sweet, and they deserve the world. This imagine if this just turned into from a sci-fi booktube channel to just like cute animal content. That's my personality now. Furry animals, light-hearted music, funny memes. It'll probably do pretty well. I mean, there's a lot of competition, a lot of channels that already do that, but people like that kind of content because animals are cute. I don't disagree. Frank here with the great film recommendation. Great film about first contact, Arrival. Absolutely beautiful. Anyone seen it? That would be in my top 10 too. Another Denis Villeneuve film. It is, deals with first contact, language, communication, time, lots of big ideas. Very thought-provoking. One of my all-time favorite sci-fi films. Definitely go watch it if you haven't seen it. Let's see. Yeah, we got some more love, some Arrival there. Yep, the chat has spoken. We are Team Arrival. Let's see. We are a couple of minutes behind in the chat, but that's okay because time is not linear. Perhaps you are behind, chat. A character that we would like to simulate. Project Hail Mary. And Andy Weir characters are a good choice because there might be some heroes and villains, but I feel like Andy Weir is a generally positive sci-fi writer, and there is a higher percentage of people in his books that I would actually want to interact with in real life. Let's see. Pedro got the Hyperion profile picture as well. I love it. That goes straight to the top of the list. What are your favorite contemporary sci-fi authors? So, let's see. We can do a little visual here. Let's see. Over here, we got the Remembrance of Earth Past, Cixin Liu. Over here, we got the Sun Eater shelf, an entire shelf dedicated to Christopher Rocchio's Sun Eater. Going down. Well, I wouldn't put Culture Series at the top yet, but we are going to be reading some more Culture Series. Going down. Let's see, we got Alistair Reynolds over here. And then those are most of the series that I put together. The rest is kind of a mix. But yeah, those are some good ones. Blake Crouch, Andy Weir, Arkady Martine. Yeah. You got some good options. Classic, and contemporary. You can't go wrong either way. Well, let's see. We got a scientist in the chat. We got someone to explain it to me. Gaming Addict says there's two-dimensional or complex time, bro. Stephen Hawking wrote about complex time in Brief History of Time. I think he dropped the theory though. Yeah, the extent of my knowledge of understanding the Stephen Hawking theories is that I watched the Eddie Redmayne movie and I liked it. Don't ask me to explain the theories, but I watched the movie. Oh, well, no way. Why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to me? Tussie asked the classic FMK question. Vonnegut, Reynolds, and Simmons. That's brutal. I'm big fans of all of them. I'm gonna go marry Vonnegut because he just has so many good books, so many genres over such a long time period. And I think he's a great storyteller and just has had a real impact on me as a reader. I'm gonna F Reynolds because I think at his best, he just knocks it out of the park with the crazy sci-fi concepts. And Simmons, you know what? I'm a really big fan of Hyperion Cantos, and I quite liked Ilium and Olympus as well. But that's all the sci-fi he wrote, I think, for the most part. So smaller back catalogue. Some of his other stuff I'm not as interested in trying out. So I hate, someone had to go, and it was Simmons. Let's see. Regan Bogan asks, what would you recommend to a fan of Cixin Liu? So the only other writer that has really reminded me of Cixin Liu is Arthur C. Clarke. I feel like Arthur C. Clarke was an influence on Liu. So you may have already read Clarke because Clarke's quite a famous classic sci-fi author. But if for whatever reason you haven't, definitely check out Childhood's End, Rendezvous with Rama, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Those are the three I've read, and I've enjoyed all of them. And I also plan to read The City and the Stars. I own a copy of that, but haven't read it yet. So yeah, definitely check out some Clarke. Ooh, okay, Bookspin asked, do I have any favorite sci-fi TV series? Some of his includes Black Mirror, Doctor Who, and The Lazarus Project. I'm going to take a brief water break. I apologize. And this week, no water bottle. No free promos for any water bottle companies out there. We're drinking from the glass this live stream. You don't know what company I'm not inadvertently promoting. Yes. All right. You know what? I'm sure I do. But for me, I've often felt like sci-fi television series have not had the budget to really do sci-fi justice. And that's why a lot of sort of early sci-fi TV that worked well was comedies, because, you know, you don't necessarily need to fully believe that you're on a spaceship. It's okay that the set looks a bit plastic rather than a real spaceship, because we're all aware that we're watching a TV show and the point is to make us laugh rather than really get emotionally invested in something serious. So I think some of those early comedies worked better. I think the first dramatic sci-fi TV show that I really liked was Battlestar Galactica. But it kind of I kind of lost interest around season 4, I'm going to say. So sorry to any fans out there that love the whole thing. I did really like it for maybe around 3 seasons, but it did lose my interest towards the end. I'm sure there's stuff that I'm forgetting. I'm trying to think if there's anything more recent. Upload was pretty good on Amazon Prime. It's sort of like a virtual reality comedy, but also has a pretty interesting storyline. There's 2 seasons out so far. Upload is a good recent one that I've read. Let me know if there's anything I'm forgetting. Give me some TV recs in the chat. Let's see. I haven't read Metro 2033. I feel like it was a book that I'd heard of and then I'd forgotten about, and then you guys are probably familiar with this, and there's probably a name for this concept. So let's say, I mean, I could just give a book example. For some reason, I was reaching for some super abstract example. It's like, hey, Jonathan, you're in a live stream about books. Maybe just use a book as an example. So let's say you've never heard of Metro 2033 for whatever reason, just haven't come across it. And then you'll hear about it and you'll be like, okay, that's cool, that's interesting. And it's not necessarily even that recent a book. I don't know when it came out. I think it came out a few years ago. For the sake of the hypothetical, let's just say it's not brand new. It came out a few years ago. And then the next day, someone else will recommend it to you. You're like, oh, that's interesting. I just heard about that for the first time yesterday. And then 2 days go past, and then someone else will be like, oh, have you read Metro 2033? I just read Metro 2033. It's amazing. And you're like, what is happening? This isn't even like super topical. It didn't just come out, but all of a sudden, I keep on hearing about the same thing over and over again. And I don't know what it is about the way the universe works, but things seem to come in waves. There's a song, a joke, a concept, a type of food. Never heard of a dragon fruit before, and then 5 people will offer me a dragon fruit one week. things just come in waves. Anyway, I'm in the middle of a Metro 2033 wave. I'd forgotten about it, and then 3 or 4 people have brought it up this week. So let me know. Does Metro 2033 need to go on the TBR? Is it that good? Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Time is not linear. Mormon proves it. You can skip backwards in the stream and rewatch Jonathan's answer to a particular question. And you should probably go rewatch all the videos just for just for my analytics purposes. Let's see. Dave, congrats. Thank you, Dave. I just finished the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy because of your recommendations. It's an awesome series. It gets some love. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but the characters are dry. And like, yeah, it's awesome though. Like, you don't need every character to go on some big emotional journey if the book is just blowing your mind every couple of chapters. So yes, if you don't need character first reading experience, definitely go check out the 3 Body Problem and the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy. Let's see. You guys like it when I do background music. This is how I kill time scrolling for questions. You guys didn't know I had a hidden talent. It's not singing. I didn't tell you what the talent was, but it's definitely not singing. Let's see. Love, Death and Robots was an amazing series. It even has some Reynolds adapted in it. Okay, that piques my interest because I have not seen Love, Death and Robots. But if there's a Reynolds reference or adaptation, that makes me want to check it out. Let's see. Look, the world. We're just, we're not all that different. We're not all that far apart. The humans are linked in strange ways, and it's just Metro 2033 week, I guess. It's just we're in sync, as Mondo Strat says. It's called synchronicity, and that's the sync of the week. Yes. I think that's evidence of the simulation. That's what the programmers have programmed for the week. And it's coming, which shining a light on that. You can't trick us sci-fi fans. We know when we are being simulated. Let's see. Tussie asks, have you read J.G. Ballard or Thomas Dish? So I haven't heard of Thomas Dish. I have heard of J.G. Ballard. I think The Drowned World and High Rise are 2 of his books that I've been recommended. I haven't read them. It's weird because when I see reviews from people that I interact with online, maybe on YouTube or whatever, they speak pretty highly of Ballard. But then when you go to Goodreads, and I know all Goodreads ratings should be taken with a pinch of salt, but they're pretty low. They're pretty low for someone that seems to be quite influential, seems to be spoken quite highly of. So maybe Ballard has quite a particular, specific writing style that will appeal to some readers more than others. I'll have to find out if I'm one of those readers, but I will definitely be checking out some Ballard in the future. Rock says the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. That might be in reference to the synchronicity, the waves that we've been experiencing this week. And Rock Howard is also a fan of Thomas Dish. So that's good to know. I'm gonna have to do some research. That's great. That's why I like doing these live streams, because you guys have recommendations for me to add to the never-ending TBR list. It is a battle that cannot be won. You cannot defeat the TBR. You can only fight against it as nobly and valiantly as you can. All right, let's see. Ooh, another sci-fi series recommendation, it looks like. Mormon Gill says, I just remembered my favorite sci-fi series of the past few years, Tales from the Loop. A really good atmosphere. I haven't heard of Tales from the Loop, but I bet you I will more times this week. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. I feel like I said earlier that I have plenty of sci-fi books to go. Why would I read any other genres? I'm enjoying sci-fi. I love sci-fi. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, more sci-fi books to read. I don't feel that way about television. I'm sure there are plenty of other good TV shows, but I just feel like I've watched most of the ones that I'm interested in. So if you have any good TV recs, especially sci-fi TV recs, I'll be very excited to hear them. So it sounds like Tales from the Loop needs to go on the list. Mondestrat says they read Vermilion Sands, Two Birds with One Stone. They are a ballad and short story. So by J.G. Ballard, I'm assuming, and they're short stories. But did you like them, Mondestrat? Do you recommend them? Probably wouldn't have commented if you didn't, but let me know. We need confirmation. Let's see. Nick says that the phenomenon is called frequency illusion or Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. It's a cognitive bias. You know, look, you're not going to trick me. Nick's been trying to trick me all episode. I think there definitely is something to, well, of course you're going to notice things more once you're aware of them. The question is, why was I not aware of it before and I am aware of it now when it's something that's not new? There's no reason that I didn't know what a dragon fruit was. That I do know what a dragon fruit was. I don't know why I keep using that example. But there's no reason why I shouldn't have been familiar with something beforehand. That's the thing that trips me up. But I don't claim to understand my own brain, let alone all of the humans' brains. Let's see. Do we have some JG? Let's see. Uh-oh, I've got myself in trouble here. If you haven't heard of Dish, I'm shook. Let's see. It's a Gens Camp Concentration, Genocides, or Echo Round. Okay, I'm going to have to look him up. Let's see. Nick says he's pretty famous, but he hasn't read him yet either. So that's making me feel a little bit better, because Nick's read pretty much everything. Nick reads a lot of books. Nick is a sci-fi machine. So looks like Dish is going on the TBR. Let's see. Regenbogen asks, do I know if Liu is still writing, if there are any other significant works that have not been translated yet? From my research, it seems like he hasn't done anything in a while. That's a good question. I would be inclined to read more by Cixin Liu, but I have not heard of him writing much else. I think he has written one or two other books. He wrote one... Ooh, I'm going to get him confused now. So I know someone can tell me in the chat. There is essentially Remembrance of Earth's Past fan fiction that is approved fan fiction. So Liu did not write it. And I think that's called... Is it called Redemption Time? Someone put that in the chat for me. Something like that. And I heard very mixed things. And to be honest, I'm not super interested in reading it. Maybe at some point in the future, but I don't have any near-term plans to read that. Then there's another one that I, for some reason, always confused with that one that Liu did actually write, but I don't think it's in the Remembrance of Earth's Past universe, called Ball Lightning. Could have got those swapped around. And again, the reviews for that one are pretty mixed as well, so that's why I haven't picked that up. But if Liu does write more, and I hear even just somewhat positive things about it, I'm going to check it out because he's a writer that I definitely enjoy. I like his style. I like how ambitious he is with the scope, the ideas, the mind meltiness of his type of science fiction. So, yeah, I am interested in reading more Liu, but I haven't heard of him writing much else. Ooh, Severance. So you know what? I started Severance when I was on the East Coast visiting my wife's family, and then for some reason when we came back to LA, we just sort of forgot to keep going. And now it's kind of been a while where it's like, do I remember enough? But I don't want to go back to episode 1. I should just stop complaining and watch it. Everyone says it's good. I was somewhat liking the first 4 episodes. It didn't blow me away, but pretty much everyone says you've got to finish Severance. So we're gonna check that off the list. We'll come back to it. Let's see. Bookspin says the Lazarus Project is underrated sci-fi TV rec, very entertaining British time loop political action thriller. Okay, that sounds pretty good. I enjoy those subgenres, and I do enjoy the British sensibilities. There's quite a lot of good British TV shows. This is not sci-fi, but I recently watched Hijack with Idris Elba, and I was very entertained by that. I thought that was a simple premise, done really well. So I regret to give you a non-sci-fi recommendation, but check out Hijack on Apple TV Plus. I need to be getting sponsored for this kind of stuff. All right, you know what, Apple TV? I take back my recommendation. Hit me up for sponsorship if you want me to recommend your shows on live streams. Let's see. Michael says there was a lot of used Alistair Reynolds in my local bookshop yesterday. Picked up the Revenger trilogy. Any thoughts on that one? So I've read 6 Reynolds books, but not any of the Revenger trilogy. So the chat might have to let us know. It can't be bad, right? Can't be bad. If it was his best, I probably would have heard more about it. But it's not going to be bad. I mean, it's Reynolds. So I hope you like it, Michael. The chat might let us know how much. Let's see. We got more support for Severance. Not as much Tales from the Loop. All right, I'll still look it up. It sounds interesting, and definitely gonna have to finish Severance. Okay, we got an interesting take here from Regenbogen that ball lightning is brilliant. If you ask them, not going to say too much on whether or not there is a connection. Ooh, I like the tease. That was professionally done. You know, you wanna pitch a book to them. You gotta pique that curiosity gap. Well done, my friend. Because I'll be honest, not heard the best things about ball lightning, but now a little interested. Not saying I'm gonna read it right away, but I'm a little interested. Let's see. Rock Howard says, most underrated sci-fi author is Stanley Weinbaum. You guys are coming at me with the deep cuts today. I feel like the last live stream was a lot more like, oh, what do you think about Andy Weir and Arthur C. Clarke? And now it's like, we're going Thomas Dish and Stanley Weinbaum, which is great. I as I said, there's more sci-fi that I need to read. I've read, since the start of the channel, around 100 sci-fi books. And you know what? There's a couple hundred more to go, including some Stanley Weinbaum, apparently. His super short career was very impactful in the mid-1930s. A Martian Odyssey was truly groundbreaking. Interesting. I haven't read a lot of sci-fi from that time. I feel like most of the sci-fi I've read is probably 40s onward. I've really only read sort of a handful of early 1900s up to around the 1930s era of sci-fi. So Stanley Weinbaum might be a good author to check out from that time period. Let's see. Severance is amazing, but it ends in a big cliffhanger, and season 2 might not come for a long time. Yeah, that could be the case. We'll see. Yeah, the old cliffhanger. I don't know. That is, if something does end on a cliffhanger, I'm not necessarily against it, because I can enjoy the journey, the process, and then thinking about what potentially could happen after the cliffhanger. But the way my brain works, I do like resolutions. I'm someone that, when it comes to rating books, which is as always just based on my own personal enjoyment, my personal enjoyment is quite strongly impacted by the ending. If I'm somewhat enjoying a book but the ending is awesome, it's not going to go all the way to the top, but that ending can do a fair amount of heavy lifting to improve my opinion. So we'll see. Well, yeah, Severance fans are in a bit of a pickle. I empathize with you guys. Let's see. Raf says, I learned about Alistair Reynolds because my favorite episode of Love, Death and Robots was Beyond the Aquila Rift. Have you found new authors through the media? That is a good question. So I'm definitely going to need to check out Love, Death and Robots. It sounds like... I mean, I found out most of my sci-fi authors to read through YouTube, through Discord, because I'm pretty involved in this sci-fi community that you guys are all helping to build. So that's where I find most of my recommendations. But in terms of other media, sometimes I'm trying to think of an example. But if I do see something that I really enjoy, I might research it, and it might be based on something or influenced by, for example, Arrival. I was based on a short story by Ted Chiang, and so now I really want to read Ted Chiang because that film was amazing. And so that might be an example of where, TV or film has kind of pointed me in the direction of an author. Let's see. You know what? I love you guys. Lord Cognito says, did I read Liu's short story collection, The Wandering Earth? I did not. There's some excellent stories with extremely creative ideas in there, although I will say there are some huge duds as well. That is part of the reason why I'm more drawn to novels than short stories. Well, for two reasons. One, that I like being able to go on a longer journey because I feel like the payoffs can be larger. And two, the nature of a short story collection, just the way the human mind works, or at least my mind works, is you will have you will tend to have favorites and least favorites. And if someone just knocks it out of the park, if there's 10 short stories in a collection and they're all bangers, then great. That's a 5-star book. But most reviews you see for short story collections do have some equivalent of this kind of wording, which is I'm not against them. I do plan to read a little bit more short fiction, but that is one of the reasons why it's usually not at the top of my TBR list. All right, Tussie asks, am I a John Wyndham enjoyer? So I have read The Day of the Triffids, and I quite liked it. I thought it had an interesting tone. I like the writing style, and I really like the ending of the book. The middle, to me, I got a little bit bogged down in, so I haven't included on my all-time favorite lists or anything like that, but I do plan to read more John Wyndham, an author that gets compared to Clifford D. Simak a lot, and I really love the two books that I've read by Simak, so that comparison also makes me want to read more from John Wyndham. Let's see, what do we have here? Mormon Gill says they read The War of the Worlds for the first time and was quite surprised by how good it was, and it didn't feel antiquated at all, not even in the language used. Interesting. So I read War of the Worlds quite a while ago. I was quite a bit younger, and I did quite enjoy it. And I remember thinking that it did feel a little bit classic, but yeah, it wasn't difficult to read or anything like that. So yeah, now that I've got a bit more reading under my belt, a bit more sci-fi under my belt, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to read a bit more H.G. Wells, read some things from that time period, and see how the prose is. Alrighty, guys, gonna take a sip, another quick water break. I'm talking a lot. Any water bottle companies out there that want to sponsor me for the official Words in Time live stream water breaks, hit me up. Except Arrowhead. Not interested. Not a fan. I'm sorry. Any other water bottle company, hit me up. All right. Let's see. Ooh, this is a good question from Bookspin. Do you ever go to book events, author talks, book signings, conventions, etc.? So not a lot, but I did go to, I'm trying to remember the name of it now. It was a convention in LA. It might just have been called LA Con or something. I'll find the name of it. But it was pretty cool. I got to see a couple of speakers. I wasn't there for the whole weekend, but they did have some well-known people like David Brin. Didn't actually get to see Brin myself, but they had some guest speakers. There was panels. There was a lot of book selling going on. I didn't buy a ton of books. I think it's off screen. But down here, I think I got Brian Aldiss Nonstop for $2 or something like that. So it was a good time, and I got to meet Robin from the Book Wormhole, who's also on YouTube. So that was cool, getting to meet someone through YouTube at an event. So that's the only one that I have, the major one that I've been to. But I would like to go see more author talks, etc. So yeah, if Alistair Reynolds is in town, yeah, I need to get on the email list or something. Let's see. Ooh, Raph, what is the solar punk genre? What does that mean? Is that cyberpunk means traveling between stars, space opera / cyberpunk, or is it does solar punk mean something specific? Let me know. It's a cool word though. Let's see. Solar punk. Try Becky Chambers, Monk and Robot Geology. Interesting. So you won't be able to see it, but back here I do have the first Wayfarers book by Becky Chambers, which I'm looking forward to. People say it's got some nice characters. It's fun, feel good, interesting sci-fi. But Monk and Robot Geology I have heard of, but I feel like it's less talked about than the Wayfarers series. So maybe I'll read Wayfarers first, but if I like it, sounds like I might need to check out Monk and Robot as an introduction to solarpunk. You know, Casey, not a fan of Dasani. You know what? Dasani does taste like drinking pennies, but for the right price, it... I'd have to say that in the ad copy. I wouldn't give a dishonest sponsorship pitch to you guys. I'd be like, you know what? Dasani tastes like pennies. But if you like drinking pennies, get yourself Dasani. It's the water for you. All right, that's my audition for Dasani. If anybody from Dasani is watching the live stream, that's the kind of content that you could get on the channel for the right price. I like a couple of the chat comments have resorted to all caps. What did he? I like the use of Jonathan or you, the second person. What did he think? Well, to whom does he refer? I would ask. What did he think of Stephen King Tommyknockers? I haven't read it. The only Stephen King that I've read, a bit of a gap in my reading resume, is, as we follow the finger of pointer book analyzer of destiny, The Dark Tower. So I'm up to book 4 in The Dark Tower. Those are the only King books I've read. And after that, I said a little bit earlier that I'm interested in reading 11/22/63 and The Stand. Tommyknockers, I don't know. I feel, isn't that supposed to be one of his controversial, or not controversial, but like polarizing books? Some people love it, some people hate it. How sci-fi is it? I don't know. That's not really on my radar, but maybe I'll check it out. Let's see. I might have missed the context for this, but Nick says that he's read almost all of Philip K. Dick's books, all the sci-fi ones for sure. Not a single subpar book. That's high praise. He might be my favorite author of all time, going through his short stories and non-sci-fi books. So I have read 4 PKD books, and subpars might be a bit strong, but the only one that didn't really hit for me was The Man in the High Castle. But Ubik, A Scanner Darkly, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, all big hits. So he's 3 out of 4 on hits for me so far. And I do own the 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. So that'll be the next one I read. So I'm looking forward to reading more PKD. Let's see. Yeah, I think I missed the segue into a PKD conversation. But hey, well, you got some PKD... I don't know if the caps lock button is locked in place, but Stephen King Tommyknockers is about an alien spaceship. We'll find out by the end of the live stream who he is. It might be me. He really should read it. Okay, Tommyknockers is about an alien spaceship. There you go. So far, I'm quite a fan of Stephen King. If he wrote something sci-fi, I'd be prepared to check it out. Okay, here we have the explanation for solarpunk. Solarpunk is a genre that has a more positive collectivist future where ecology and tech combine to create a better quality of life, like renewable energy and social programs. Interesting. That does sound a little bit like Becky Chambers from what I've heard of her books, but I haven't read them yet. I'm not sure if I've read something that I would specifically put in that category, but it does sound like an interesting subgenre. I'll let you know if I read anything that kind of might have some crossover with some of those elements. Okay. Oops. What is PK? That wasn't the comment that I was trying to click on, but you know what? It's a good comment. I'm glad it didn't say something rude, particularly something rude about me. So thank you, Michael. Michael asked, what is PKD's best? Well, of the 4 that I've read, I would say Ubik. Ubik is the one that I included in my top 25 video. Ubik, wasn't sure at first. I was kind of intrigued. And then, when things started to shift, they started to click for me around halfway through. Second half of Ubik, and it's not very long. It's only about 200 pages. But those 100 pages, the back half of Ubik, one of my favorite reading experiences. Is a unique writer. Weird, trippy, philosophical, creative, imaginative. Absolutely love Ubik. So I would recommend that if I had to just pick one. What I was trying to click on is another one of these crazy hypotheticals from Tussie. If you wake up and your place is on fire, pet in arm and one book in the other, what book do you take? Okay, good. I thought for a second I was going to have to choose whether to take the pet, and I was like, you know what? I like my books, but you can replace books. Obviously, I'm taking Charlie. I mean, if there's a briefcase full of $1 million in cash or Charlie, I'm taking Charlie too. Charlie, there's no amount of money that I'm leaving Charlie behind for. So I'm glad that wasn't on the table. So I've got Charlie and a book in the other. What book do I take? I'm gonna say, so I don't really have any super fancy books. Like I don't have a lot of deluxe editions signed this or that. Maybe that's something I'd like to get into in my future if I have a little bit more disposable income to become a bit of a book collector. I would say, though, if I do have anything of note, it would perhaps be... I do have a Empire of Silence, Sun Eater Book 1 by Christopher Rocchio in the hardback, which is out of print. Those are quite hard to get. That is worth a little bit of money. And also the limited edition, The Lesser Devil and Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1 and Queen Amid Ashes and Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 2. Those are both limited edition. There was only about 500 copies of those released, I believe. So those are probably the closest things I have to like a valuable book. And I've got some of these Sun Eater books I have signed by Rocchio as well. So I'd probably grab one of those if everything's being burnt up and I need to sell something for some cash. I could probably at least get a couple meals maybe out of one of those Sun Eater books. Let's see. I'm starting to get more thirst. The amount of time that I need to that I'm able to go talking without taking a sip of water is decreasing the longer the live stream goes on. Really showing the importance of finding a potential water sponsorship. Okay, let's see. This has gone by really quickly. And we've been, if you guys have been here for the whole live stream, you guys, I salute you. Thanks for your support on the channel and the live stream. All right, back to some questions. Vignesh asks, I'm into hard sci-fi books and love The Three-Body Problem. And Clark, any other recommendations? Let's see. Someone that you might not have read in that space is Stephen Baxter. I've only read one book, and that is Ring. And that is book 4 in the Zeely sequence, but it can also be read as a standalone. I didn't read books 1, 2, and 3, and I absolutely loved Ring. But if you do want to go read 1, 2, and 3, or I believe 2 is the only one that's sort of somewhat connected to 4, you can go back and read those. Anyway, Ring by Stephen Baxter. It's space opera, but it's hard space opera. A lot of really deep science, a lot of big info dumps, but that didn't bother me just because the ideas were awesome. The story was really engaging, and I wouldn't say the characters were the highlight, but a couple of interesting characters too, which is pretty good considering how hard this space opera is. So if you like those authors, I would check out Stephen Baxter. Oh, we got a wave from Baron from Your Brain on Books. Baron and I got into YouTube around a similar time, so go subscribe to his channel, Your Brain on Books. He has an awesome collection. Speaking of kind of fancy books, I was talking about deluxe editions and stuff earlier. He has an amazing shelf with a lot of kind of first editions, hardbacks, it's very cool. So go check out Baron's channel. And he was actually one of the first people to tell me to check out Discord. He was like, hey, I've seen you on YouTube. You subscribe to other channels and yada, yada, yada. If you want to talk to people, these are the Discords to check out. So thank you, Baron, for helping me along my booktube journey. An OG booktuber is Baron. Let's see. So we have, in regards to the PKD discussion we had a little earlier, we've got some votes for Valis. Nick's told me you need to read... He says read it last. I don't know if I'm going to commit to reading every PKD book, but I'm going to read a bunch of PKD books before getting to Valis, because I believe it's supposed to be quite personal, kind of a summary of his life or everything that led up to that point in his life and career, and it's probably be best understood with PKD background knowledge. So I'm going to read a bunch of his books, and then I'm going to try Valis, because for the hardcore PKD fans, I know Valis tends to rate quite highly. Ooh. Yes, Frank says he knows that I picked up The Time Ships by Stephen Baxter recently, and his book Manifold Time was one of the best sci-fi books I've ever read. So the only Baxter book that I've read is Ring. Well, this is why we need the water sponsorship, guys. But I have heard good things about The Time Ships, which I did pick up on a recent bookstore video visit, which I made a video on, which was fun. And then Manifold Time I've heard good things about as well. So I'll definitely be reading more Baxter, and I'll let you know what I think on those two when I get to them. Let's see. Stephen King's gonna make me cry, apparently. Okay, I mean, any book that can make me cry will go quite high on my list, because if something tries to make me cry, then I'm probably not gonna cry. But if something genuinely succeeds in making me cry, it means the book has made a real emotional connection with me, or I've made a real emotional connection with the book. I deserve some of the credit as well. And I would imagine it'll be hard for a book for everything else to be terrible and then me still somehow cry. So I'd imagine most of the book has to at least be good, and then a moment that makes me cry. Yeah, anything that makes me cry is probably getting at least a 9 if I had to guess. Menelik. Oh, Menelik's up early. It's got to be like 6:41 a.m. Actually, that's in Sydney. I'm not sure what time it is in New Zealand. But anyway, Menelik, thanks for getting up early, I think. Menelik is a great supporter of the channel and an author. His book, A New Eden, the first book in the Betaverse series, came out a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of people in our Discord server have read it or done the audiobook and enjoyed it. So shout out Menelik. Check out his book. It's kind of, if you like Bobaverse, check it out. That's kind of the comp. If you're a Bobaverse fan, I think you'll be a Betaverse fan. Let's see. Yep. Ooh. Clicked on the wrong thing again, but that's all right. Raf says, I'm about to purchase the Philip K. Dick short story collection. It's a huge box set. Also, the Kurt Vonnegut box set. Those are two good authors. Those are two box sets that I would probably recommend. I have not read any PKD short stories. I have read some Kurt Vonnegut short stories. Welcome to the Monkey House is a short story collection of his that I've read and enjoyed. It's not quite top tier Vonnegut for me, but it's definitely worth reading. It's got a lot of very good stories in there. We got the age-old question, the Words in Time origin story. Here's a funny thing. Until you mentioned living in the West Coast, I figured you lived in the UK somehow. So the Words in Time origin story. I was born in England. Then when I don't know why I'm moving up like this. Anyway, Jonathan's age moves vertically. All right, here's 0. 0, born in England. 6 years old, moved to Australia. 24 years old, moved to the United States. Last 10 years, I've been living in the United States. So there you go. My accent is a little bit mixed. So if you say to me, Jonathan, where are you from? What are you? What's your deal? I would say Australian, because I lived there from the age of 6 to 24, kind of your formative years. My accent, I would say, is more Australian than English, but it is a tiny bit mixed, because I've got English and Scottish parents, so it's a little bit all over the place. So I'm not going to judge you guys for. I do sometimes get comments about me being from the UK, and they're not wrong. Even though I think of myself as Australian, you guys are not wrong. Ooh, 11/22/63 made me cry. Doesn't happen often. All right, that's high praise. Stephen King, time travel, crying. These are all good arguments for me picking up 11/22/63. All right, I'm starting to think this Tommy Knockers is a bit of a ruse. I feel like I feel like I'm starting to catch up to the joke now. Yep, Menelik got up early. Well, shout out to you, my friend. I hope you use that time. Well, I hope you watch the stream. But after the stream, I hope you either go back to bed or use that time to do something productive. I remember someone once said to me, this was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach of mine. And at the time, I was not a morning person. And now, I would not really describe my self as a morning person either. but I've gotten a little bit better. I'm okay at waking up early if I need to. And they said to me, think of the things that you do before 8 a.m. and how productive they are. Then think of the things that you do after 8 p.m. and think of how productive they are. And your answer to that may be different from other people's, but that sort of resonated with me because I thought, yes, if I do get up before 8 a.m., I'm usually not just going to go play video games, which is fun, but not necessarily super productive. I'm usually going to get some work done, do a workout, start some chores, whatever. After 8 p.m., you can be productive after 8 p.m., but if I'm being honest with myself, I'm typically not doing a lot of chores. I'm not working out. I'm not doing jobs after 8 p.m. So that kind of stuck with me. That took me from not a morning person to being accepting that being awake in the morning is beneficial. It's acceptable. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to say, so we're at 1:45. I don't know if this is going to be a hard stop, but I'm going to say at about the 2-hour mark might be the cutoff. So I'm just throwing that out there. Around 15 minutes. Think of any questions. And we're probably going to wrap it up around then, just so I can go take care of my dog and be productive and do things like that. But I really appreciate you guys. 2 hours for the 2-year celebration. I think that works nicely. So Frank has a question here that they got the Ministry of Future by Kim Stanley Robinson. Has a presidential recommendation, and it's called a non-fiction novel haven. Not familiar with that term, have not read that book, but I do own... it's going to be up here. I do own Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. So, I got distracted by this guy. I haven't read any Kim Stanley Robinson, but I will be reading Red Mars. I think that's going to be on my 2024 schedule. I'm going to start the Red Mars series next year. So, yeah, let me know if you guys are a fan of Kim Stanley Robinson. I feel like I did that video on the essential sci-fi books, and Kim Stanley Robinson was on that list. And a bunch of people recommended it. They were like, "Oh, it's great, I loved it. Oh, Jonathan, based on your reading tastes, you're gonna love it." So I was like, "Sweet." I went out and bought it, came home, and I swear, ever since I bought the book, I've heard nothing but negative comments on Red Mars. I got tricked, bamboozled, hoodwinked into purchasing Red Mars. We'll see. Did I make a good choice? Did I make a bad choice? Let me know your thoughts on Red Mars. Let's see. Mike says, congratulations on the occasion of your 2nd year on YouTube. Thank you, Mike. I'm hooked on your programs, and I enjoy everything you have done to this point. I like the officialness, the authority that the word programs sort of brings to my videos. It makes me feel like... it makes me feel very professional. I like that. Keep up the good work. Warm regards from Northeast Ohio. Mike did not want Southeast, Southwest, Northwest Ohio getting any of the credit. That's not where I'm from. I'm specifically from Northeast Ohio, the best quadrant of Ohio. So thank you for the kind words, Mike. Shout out Northeast Ohio. Everywhere else in Ohio, you're not going to get a shout out from me unless you do something to earn it in the chat. Okay, let's see. Ooh, good question. Pedro asks, out of the big dystopias, Fahrenheit 451, 1984, and Brave New World, which one is your favorite? So I really liked all of these, and I'm going to include We. We by Yevgeny Zamyatin deserves to be in that conversation as one of the 4 big classic influential dystopian books. 1984. Even though I wanted to put We in the conversation, I'm not going to pick it, even though it was first. It deserves some credit for being first. 1984, because, and I think they're all great books. The world building is great. They're all very influential. But 1984 is the one where I connected to the characters and I connected to the story. It was the one that had the biggest emotional impact on me. And even just thinking about 1984 and the ending of the 1984, it's just a gut punch. And just absolute emotionally devastating. So that's why it left the biggest mark on me. That's why I picked 1984 if I have to pick out of these, but they're all classics. You should read all of them. Let's see. All right, Robinson. Did I make a good choice when it comes to picking up some Kim Stanley Robinson? I do like Robinson, Andy says, but some of his books are really stodgy to read. That's a good word. Is that a more English word than American word? Just based on the use of the word stodgy, I'm going to guess that Andy is from the UK. I could be wrong. But either way, I like the word. I like the description. Not really loving the fact that his books are stodgy, but I'm still going to give it a try anyway. What have I done? Capricious Fox pointing out that if I do a 2-hour live stream for a 2-year anniversary, does that mean a 24-hour live stream for the 24-year anniversary? You know what? That's a long live stream. That's a long time to be streaming live for. That would encompass sleeping. Normally I would sleep within a 24-hour period. I would eat, go to the bathroom, stand up even, getting out of the chair. That would be something that I would typically do within a 24-hour time period. However, if Words in Time is still going 22 years from now, that wouldn't be an unwarranted celebration. I'm not going to commit to it, all right? I'm not going to let you guys clip a portion of this video where I commit to it. But it's on the table. If Words in Time lasts 24 years, a 24-hour live stream is on the table. A little brekkie, yeah. In a 24-hour period, having a little brekkie is something that I normally do. Prawns on the barbie. Typically, it's shrimp on the barbie. It's close. The barbie is right. The specific food item on the barbie could be more Australian. Tommy Knocker's fanatic. What is happening right now? Let's see. We've got. Yeah, we know that Nick's a fan of We by Yevgeny Zamyan. We got to show it some love when we talk about the dystopian classics. A little bit more feedback on the Red Mars trilogy. Here we go from Frank. He read the entire Red Mars trilogy and liked it, but have come to believe the whole terraforming scenario in the books is way too optimistic. All 3 books are a heavy lift, but not as bad as 3 Body. Well, okay, that's interesting, because sounds interesting. Sounds like the terraforming maybe didn't work for Frank, but it was not as bad as 3 Body. I didn't find 3 Body a problem, a heavy lift. I guess I could see it reading. It could be a heavy read if you weren't on board with what it was doing, but I got on board for 3 Body problem. So hopefully I get on board with Red Mars too. Hopefully it ends up working. Look at that. I salute you, my friend. I called it. Even though I haven't lived in the UK since I was 6 years old, I was able to pick up on the vernacular. Stodgy. I'm gonna start using that now. That's a good. If you see me or hear me using the descriptor stodgy in future Words in Time videos, shout out Andy. Red Mars wasn't one of the stodgy books. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. I mean, how many accounts has this Tommy Knocker fan made versus how many of you are in on this joke? Like, I would like to get to the bottom of this. I'm intrigued. I'm enjoying it. Still don't think I'm going to read Tommy Knockers, but I'm enjoying the effort. Let's see. Len says that stodgy is also Canadian. Well, you've got the Commonwealth background. There's a connection there, as does Australia. Always forgotten as a language polyglot. Might have to Google that. Let's see. Yeah, Nick, not familiar. Well, you're about to. It might be cognitive bias, Nick, but you're about to hear stodgy a whole lot more. That's for those of you that are a bit confused, that's a shout out to an interaction that happened about an hour ago on the live stream. So there you go. I like to reward listeners, watchers, audience members that have been here for the entire live stream. Let's go. Shlomo, happy 2 years live from Haifa. Very cool. We're getting viewers from all over the world. I think we've probably ticked off like 8 or 9 countries by now. So that's pretty cool to see how universal sci-fi is, the channel is, YouTube is. Let's see. So Tussie asks, authors from different countries, any importance to you? I think it is good to read authors from different countries to get interesting perspectives, styles of sci-fi, subgenres of sci-fi. I do want to make in the future kind of like an around the world sci-fi video where I discuss, an author from we got like Russia, China, England, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Brazil. I do want to do something like that, but there's a couple more countries that I need to read authors from that I might not have read yet. But some time in the future, once I've ticked those off, like you guys have been planting the flags in today's live stream video, once I've read a few more books, I would like to share those with you and check out some kind of different types of sci-fi, see what we find from around the world. All right, guys. So it's not a hard cutoff, but I did say at around 2 hours we were going to say goodbye. So if you have any questions, you got about 3 minutes and 43 seconds to get in your final questions. Let's see. Mormon Guilt says they are Greek. That's awesome. So we got another viewer from Greece. Let me know if there's any Greek sci-fi authors. Off the top of my head, I don't think I know. I don't think I know of any Greek sci-fi authors, but that'd be pretty cool to check out. Let's see. Sibo says, have you read The Swarm by Frank Schatzing, German sci-fi? I haven't, although I did mention it in a video. I made a video on underwater sci-fi that I would like to read, and that was on the list. Rachel from Shades of Orange recommended that. I know she read it and was a fan. So I would like to check out The Swarm. I think it is a chunker. I think it's about 800 pages, so not sure when I'll be able to squeeze that into the TBR, but I have heard some good things, and German sci-fi, so that would be cool. Another country from around the world to add to the list of sci-fi. Let's see. Juan is from Argentina. Awesome. Thanks, Juan, for the love. You know what? I haven't. I definitely need to check out something from Heinlein because I haven't. That's kind of a big name on that is missing from my list. I know some people is at the very top when people talk about the classic sci-fi authors. It usually goes Clark, Asimov, Heinlein. Then a lot of people say Heinlein doesn't work for them. So I would maybe like to read one of his early books and then kind of see how he progressed in his writing style over time, because I know some people like the earlier periods more or the later periods more. Haven't tried anything yet. Not sure if it's going to work for me, but I won't know until I give it a go. Let's see. Mormon Gill says that they are aware of Greek sci-fi authors, but not of any that have been translated into English. Well, hopefully one of them writes a breakout sci-fi book. It gets translated, and I'll check it out. Let's see. Sibo asked the Expanse books versus the show. So recently I just finished the books. For spacing reasons, unfortunately, let's see, I think they're kind of hiding back here. We're doing the unfortunate double stack, you guys. But I recently finished book 9, and overall I think it was a 4-star series. I really liked it, with a couple of standouts. I think book 8 was my favorite. So I was waiting until I had finished the books in order to read the show, in order to watch the show. And I watched the first episode and quite enjoyed it. I was trying to get my wife into it. I'm not sure. I'll have to see. I might be able to get her to watch more episodes. If not, it might need to be one of those things that I watch on my own time. But so far, it feels like they did a pretty good job of capturing the look and feel, at least how I interpreted it when I read it. So let me know your thoughts on the show. I've heard good things, mostly so far. Len asked, have I read any Fritz Lieber? I haven't, but my friend Liam from Liam's Lyceum is a Liber fan. So I'll ask him what he thinks is the best place to start. I think one of his books might have won a Hugo. Someone might be able to let me know. But yeah, let me know the best place to start with Liber. I know that Liam is a fan. There's a Tommy Knockers movie. Maybe I should start with that and then see if I should read the book. All right. Let's see. There's a Swarm English audio book coming out. Ooh. You know, Nick, I would like to do a buddy read, but next month is already pretty chock-a-block full on the schedule and does have Otherland on it, which is already enormous. I don't think I could read Otherland, an 800 book, and The Swarm, another 800 book, and really have time to read anything else. So, I don't know. You might have to let me know how good The Swarm is and how high to put it up on my TBR. Let's see. Shout out some music artists. That's not a sci-fi question. The Blade Runner 2049 soundtrack. There you go, Tussie. Well, there you go, guys. We reached the 2-hour mark. This went longer than I anticipated, but the time flew by. Time is... It might be. It might be. You know, I'm a reader, all right? That's the advantage of audiobookers. They hear how character names and places and things are actually pronounced, and they get to look smarter than me. So I'm sorry if I mispronounce anything. I'll try and do some research if I make any videos on any of the things we talked about. But yes, the time flew by, but time is not linear anyway, as we learned today. But I really enjoyed this. It's really been a lot of fun making videos for the last couple of years. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep making videos. And I've second year I made slightly less videos than I did in year one, but that's because I want to make videos that I'm really passionate about. I'm really excited to make, really put a lot of effort into them, make the type of videos that you want to see, and seems like you guys have been enjoying that. So I really appreciate the support over the last 2 years, and I really appreciate the support over the last 2 hours. This was a lot of fun. I'm sorry, Vladislav, that I'm signing off as you got here, but I appreciate you being here. And you know what? Just scrub on that little timeline, on the little on the YouTube video. Go back to the start, and I appreciate all you guys watching. Whether you watch this live or whether you check this out in the future, I appreciate it either way. I will definitely be seeing you guys soon with more sci-fi book videos. I don't know if the buttons come up here. I don't know whether to do my normal outro. I don't know if there's anything to click on, but I'm going to do my normal outro anyway. I hope you guys... Wow, you'd think I was a professional. Only been doing this for 2 years. I'll muck up my own outro. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, subscribe. It's free. And you can find more sci-fi content over here.